we have the technology with AI, and with things like Jonah, we can see what, people's microbiome, people's genetics before they take a certain chemo, before they get a certain vaccine, so that we can protect people and give them, like you said, more precision, bespoke medicine because we are so biologically different. There shouldn't be a one size fits all any intervention, It should be, we have the ability to be that kind of precise and custom. So I love that Jonah's going to be one of the tools, that can help us because there's so much protection to that too. It's like to know what the path forward that's best for you with the least amount of, negative repercussions.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing? I didn't know this actually until recently, but people who go through cancer treatment often, do many rounds of antibiotics, many rounds of chemo, and when things go well, they come out the other side of that in remission and can stay in remission, potentially for the rest of their lives. But many of those people, even if they beat the cancer, they start developing gut issues. And there are all these folks who late in life develop autoimmune conditions, Crohn's disease, colitis, and there's a lot of speculation that it's this, wipeout of your system, of your gut microbiome that is responsible for that development. And so there may be an opportunity also as somebody gets to the end of their cancer treatment while they're just thinking about surviving and thinking about beating the cancer to help protect them and inoculate them from, developing some of these other diseases that come on as a side effect of that treatment.
Absolutely. I mean, it should be common knowledge now that like chemo's like the in radiation or the heavy artillery that is gonna, and then we're getting more targeted, which is great. Um, therapies, but it generally is, and the antibiotics are generally going to antibiotics, so like kill all of life in our gut. So it should be just standard procedure post, during, conventional treatment of cancer that, God bless, solves the cancer. But then it should be required, it should be absolutely necessary to also be rebuilding the gut immediately thereafter and during, So
Yeah, and medicine doesn't think like that right now. I mean, from the standpoint of medicine, they just sort of, well, you know it, right? I mean, you just give people antibiotics and you say, well, what could go wrong, right? I mean, what's the harm? And I am very, pro antibiotics. There are times when you absolutely need antibiotics.
correct.
Same time, to think that we should just be handing them out, as candy as a prophylactic is just wrong, right?
Mhm.
There's this amazing study in South Korea where they took the entire population because they have a national health system, took the entire population, they cut them into four groups of people who had never taken antibiotics, people who had taken some, a middle amount, and the most amount, right? And they looked at obesity rates in these four groups. And it's like a straight line basically. Like the more antibiotics they've taken, the higher risk they are for obesity.
Wow. And I would have to imagine that again, not back, but like to the conventional farming and industrial farming of meat. So cows, pigs, all these conventional, industrial farms raising meat pump their animals with antibiotics because they're not raised in healthy environments, so they get infections. And so we're
Well, also to make
eating,
them, but also to make them fat,
and to
right?
make them fat. So we're
Right?
eating animals pumped with non-natural diets to make them fatter, and then antibiotics to deal with the illnesses and, injuries that pop up. It's really disgusting, actually, when you get into it. But then all, especially people that don't have access to better quality meats, they're eating these meats, trusting that it's all good, but we're ingesting those antibiotics and, oh, the DNA of those obese animals, right?
Right? Right. Yeah, and it's remarkable that farmers are the first to figure out that antibiotics makes their animals fatter, and that was a good thing, right? I mean, if you have a fatter animal, you can sell it for more meat, and you also protect them against diseases, so you can pack them all together. So yeah, they load these animals up with antibiotics, but in normal human society, we never really kind of connect the dots between the fact that, loading up an animal with antibiotics makes them fat. But humans, like we have no problem giving our kids antibiotics. They've got sniffles, they get antibiotics, and without thinking about what that's going to do to them.
Yeah. It almost feels like Jonah could be running these parallel like clinical studies of, I'll want to order a kit every time I do a course of antibiotics, which is obviously very rare, knock on wood, thank God. But if you have to give someone has an infection, you got to take antibiotics, you kind of want to test your microbiome before and after just so you get the data of see how it changes, you know?
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, exactly how to replenish it too.
And how to replenish it. Um, So Jonah is a stool kit, as it, has to be. But I have to say to the listeners, it's never, well, it's kind of fun talking about poop. But your the kit I got in the mail was the most user-friendly, really pleasant stool kit experience, I have to say. Like I don't know. I just want to say that. Anybody who's afraid of doing an at-home stool kit, the fears stop here because they figured it out to where it's really easy, really clean. They send this like catch-all thing that just makes the whole process really easy. So kudos on that aspect of it too.
Yeah, thank you. It's really important. And we actually, believe it or not, we invested a lot of time in figuring out the right quality materials to make that part easy. And so it's not going to break or be gross or, any more unpleasant than it needs to be. And look, I mean, the stool collection piece is not the most fun part of what you're doing. Um, it's, neither is blood work, neither is a colonoscopy, neither are a lot of things in life, right? But the amount of information it gives you, it's like a crystal ball into your health. And, just a little bit of work, using some of the contents of the kit can make it really painless to get it done and to get it out.
Yeah. And then it's just this great dashboard where you get your results and then you can navigate through, you can share it with your care provider, right? Or it gives you suggestions. As you're speaking, the thought came to me like someone with rheumatoid arthritis taking methotrexate, like a really intense drug that they need to take, it's clearly going to have an effect on their microbiome. And obviously before they even took the drug, their microbiome was probably off if they're going to be diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, right? So, or a child with ADHD that's been, the only way that their parents could keep them in schools to medicate them, again, just having ADHD, their gut's going to be off. And then you add in a Ritalin or another powerful medication, it's going to throw the gut off even more. So, can you give guidance or have you had any examples of someone like that where they are on medication, they take the stool tests and they get the information and then they make the changes and they're able to get off the medication. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because it's really complex when you're already on a medication.
Yeah, and I should say, anyone who's taking a medication and working with a doctor on doing that, really needs to talk to their doctor about any of the information that we provide or uh, before making any kind of changes to their medication regime.
Right, right,
Uh,
right. Correct. Yeah.
we at JONA, we're not practicing medicine. Your doctor is really the one that should be making those decisions together with you. I think where we can provide value is in offering information that didn't exist before, right? Um, Oftentimes there are multiple different drugs that could be selected for an individual. Some of them may have different um, effects on your microbiome than others. We may see some of those effects in your microbiome after you've been taking these drugs. And if there are ways in which those changes, those effects are causing problems or moving your health into a negative direction, there may be ways in which through diet, through lifestyle, through supplements that you can change your microbiome and compensate for the effect of the drug. All of those things should be done in collaboration with your doctor, but
Absolutely.
we can provide that information and we always link out to the evidence. So everything that we ever tell you or your doctor, the evidence is right there and you can go read the studies that it's based on.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.